Hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to talk about sustainability and supply chains today. And Samareh, we'll start with you, if that's okay, with a few questions about PPE and Ansell specifically in regard to sustainability. So I'm just going to jump straight in. First question I have is, what are the key steps and strategies procurement managers should use to source sustainable PPE and achieve their sustainability goals?
So I think that knowing your baseline is quite important. Knowing what kind of PPE your workers are using right now, and are those solutions sustainable? And then from there, you can look for suppliers who are willing to collaborate with you and are able to offer you both sustainable products that obviously meet the safety standards. So I think what is important is to look for suppliers who are transparent, meaning that they are willing to share the information regarding their supply chains with you. That includes their environmental impact, where they get their their raw materials from. So I think working with suppliers who are open and willing to collaborate, it always puts you in the right direction to select suppliers who are sustainable and as a result have sustainable PPE. Another important point to look out for is knowing what you're looking for as a company. So what are your sustainability objectives? For example, is your company looking to reduce its carbon emission? Are you looking to reduce waste? Or just in general, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Let's say you're looking to have X% of your portfolio to be sustainable by this date. So knowing what you're looking for always puts you, it makes it easier for you to look for suppliers that can provide you that and look for sustainable PPE as a result.
And so, with all of that in mind, how can businesses and organizations ensure safety while adopting sustainable PPE?
So I think that nowadays there are so many innovations and so many innovative products out there that means you don't have to compromise safety, because at the end of the day, when it comes to PPE, safety is non-negotiable, right? You need to be able to provide workers with PPE that they want to wear during the day, they feel comfortable, they feel safe and sustainable at the same time. So nowadays there are products that they have bio-based material in them. You can find gloves, as an example, that have recycled yarn in them. So there are many sustainable solutions out there that you can look out for, again, depending on what you're looking for, what are your targets. There are, for example, some companies that work on biodegradable PPE that can help reduce waste. So another way that you want to ensure that the product that you buy is both sustainable and, of course, meets the safety standards, look for credible certifications. You know, CE markings are a good example, and C standards. These tests and standards are there to guarantee that the PPE that you buy goes through a series of rigorous testings that making sure to guarantee that this product that you buy does what it tells you to do. So if it's a cut protection, it goes through related testing to ensure that when the worker wears it, it does protect the worker from the cut hazards. So in a nutshell, you don't have to compromise safety when it comes to sustainability. There are innovative solutions out there that can combine both safety and sustainability.
We're considering sustainability here in terms of supply chain, but there are broader considerations as well, broader benefits, I suppose. And here I'm talking about how can supply chain management encourage things like diversity, inclusion, and employee well-being. What are those benefits to a company, and what are the challenges in actually implementing those?
Right. So I think the supplier management, supply chain management plays a key role here. It's true that it can be complex to find suppliers that are willing sometimes to collaborate to go one step further. But I think that it starts with mapping out your supply chain, right? Knowing where you operate, in which countries you're present, and look for ways you can contribute positively to those communities. So depending on where you are, map out where are your hotspots, where you can contribute positively to that specific area. For example, work with suppliers who are smaller in size. They have underrepresented groups working for them. And this way you can contribute from an economic perspective to that community where you operate. Again, it's not an easy task to find suppliers who are aligned with your objectives. It can take time, and also it can take time bringing people on board, asking them, encouraging them to implement inclusivity, diversity. But once it's done, I think the benefits are undeniable. I think that as experience and what we see from the data out there is that when your supply chain network is diverse, that's where it's the most innovative, it's the most flexible. So I think even though it can be complex, putting the work in it to implement ethical practices, it will pay off in the end. And I think also, from a commercial perspective, purely, there's a reputational advantage to it, right? We all, as human beings, want to work for companies that represent our values, right? So I think at the end of the day, when you do have a supply chain that is diverse and people are well represented, making sure that ethical practices are implemented, you also can attract better talents. You can attract better workers at the end of the day. So I think it's positivity chain in the end once you put the work to implement inclusivity and diversity in your supply chain.
And moving on directly from that, practically speaking, how can organizations go about improving sustainability within their supply chain? Where does it begin, and what are the key areas to evaluate?
So that's a very good question. I think improving sustainability, again, starts with mapping out your supply chain, right? And identifying what's important to you. What are your hotspots, where you want to improve? So for example, do you want to improve your raw materials? Is it your manufacturing process? Is it your labor practices? So knowing and evaluating what are the areas to improve helps you already and puts you in the right direction. Next is, of course, finding the right suppliers, talking to the suppliers, sharing with them openly what you're trying to achieve as a company, and encouraging them and guiding them sometimes for them to also join you on this journey. Because again, I know might sound like a cliche, but sustainability is a journey that you cannot walk alone. You need a team of suppliers, your people that work for you, to align and to collaborate with you. And I think what is also important is not to look for perfection. I don't think anybody has a magic formula, and nobody can say that they never make mistakes. So it's not so much about finding perfection and looking for flaws, but I think it's very honestly looking for areas where you can improve. And work together again with your suppliers, with your customers, knowing what they want to achieve. And again, another point that I think is important is knowing that auditing and trying to improve is not a one-time task. It's a continuous effort, right? It's something that you probably need to do every 6 months, every year. Look at your hotspots and your areas where you need to improve, and make sure that you consistently work and put in the effort, implement initiatives that can help you get there. So it's a continuous effort, I would say, and it's a journey that you need to involve other stakeholders with you.
Bora, one theme, one factor that we often hear mentioned in regard to sustainability are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which people are typically familiar with. But could you explain how they influence supply chain practices? And in your own case, how is your business, Ansell, working to align its operations with these principles?
Before talking about this one, I just want to give some brief information regarding to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and global warming. And this crisis is not started recently. It was started 1990s. And at that time, United Nations is trying to find a solution and develop some actions regarding to that one. But it took a longer time to get a consensus from all world, all countries. So in 2015, United Nations developed a framework addressing global changes, such as poverty, such as inequality, such as climate change, and similar environmental problems. So what they did, especially, they developed 17 different sustainable development goals in order to fight this crisis. And as an answer, what we are doing, especially, definitely, we just shape our sustainability program in line with this one. We identify 7 topics which is in line with the sustainable development goals. These are good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, affordable clean energy, and other related items. So what we are doing as an answer currently, we are working as a whole supply chain end to end in order to deliver these targets and to be in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
And moving on specifically to the sustainability of supply chains, to help with understanding, how would you define a sustainable supply chain? And what does that look like in practice?
Very good question. How we are defining a sustainable supply chain? For us, sustainable supply chain is one that considers environment, social, and economic impacts of all activities, getting a product or service from the origin to end consumer, especially. So as you can understand from this definition, there are multiple stakeholders exist in here. It's starting from the sustainable sourcing and designing environmental friendly production, producing this product by considering reduced environmental footprint, and then product life cycle and disposal of the product, and then continue with the continuous improvement. As an answer, we are thinking that we have to work for all of this step together with our stakeholders. And definitely we are taking an action to work with our material suppliers. And we are working with the R&D to define an environmental friendly product. In our production units, I mean that we are just reducing energy consumption, converting our energy to renewable energy, water consumption, and then generate less waste. And whatever we are just generating as a waste, not sending to the landfill. And after that, we are working with our consumers, especially, and to dispose this product in environmental friendly solution. As a summary, we are considering all end-to-end supply to be sustainable.
In any supply chain, collaboration is very important. Why is it particularly important if you're going to achieve sustainability throughout your supply chain?
In order to explain this one, I just want to talk about the complexity of the supply chain. As I mentioned to you, we are working with the multiple stakeholders. For example, for the raw materials, at this, we have to work more than 100 raw material suppliers. And you have to ensure that all of them is providing sustainable supply chain. Then you have to work with the R&D, design a product which is considering the sustainability practices, and produce these kind of things in your own operation, distribute to a consumer, and then ensure that consumer is using and disposing this product in sustainable way. If you are looking for that whole supply chain, maybe I can explain in 1 or 2 minutes, but it's too much complex. Many stakeholders are involving this supply chain. When you are working with them, you have to consider their priorities. You have to consider the expectation regarding to sustainable supply chain, and then merge all of them together to ensure sustainable goals are achieved. So this is not an easy task. This is not a one-day activity. What we are doing, especially, we are working with all stakeholders to achieve these kind of things. 2 things definitely we are just focusing. Number 1, transparency. Whatever we are doing in the supply chain, we are communicating with all stakeholders, starting from the supplier, continue with the other functions especially. And the second thing, we are defining a clear accountability. What is their roles and responsibilities, and what is the expectation outcome coming from each stakeholder. So after we define this clear accountability, definitely working together with them in continuous improvement process. One of the important things I'm just highlighting that in this value chain, definitely you have to be cost effective. Otherwise, you cannot compete with your competitors. So this is making the situation more complex than this one. But as an answer, we are doing a great job. For example, when we are converting our energy supply in our operation, we are not only consider sustainability, but also cost effectiveness. So it's a win-win situation. When we are saving the world, we are also providing a affordable product to our consumer. So as a summary, and all Ansell supply chain is considering sustainability by working with the multiple stakeholders.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for your answers. It's been really interesting to get underneath, beyond the surface of sustainability and look at it really from a supply chain point of view, and then also bringing in safety and the direct considerations for PPE. So thank you very much.